introduce my friend, Stephen Haslam, who I've known since 1979. Stephen, as I told him, and I promised him I wouldn't overdo it, is one of the wisest men I know. And I've met a lot of men and women. And that wisdom comes from, I think a story that someone explains it real quick. 2,000 years ago, when Saul of Tarsus was sitting on a chair while St. Stephen was being stoned to death, holding the cloaks of those who stoned him. And Stephen's face lit up like a bright light. And he saw God in heaven and Jesus sitting at his right hand. That's how the story goes. And I'm sure Saul of Tarsus, who was not yet Paul, was shocked by that experience. You know, Stephen is not known as one of the apostles. He was known for doing miracles and wonders. He's kind of one of those silent disciples that we don't pay much attention to. And I'm sure the next year when Saul was on his way to Damascus and the light knocked him off his donkey, that it happened because of what happened to Stephen. And 2,000 years later, the same thing I think happened with Paul. When Stephen came to Paul in 1976, Stephen became his apprentice and student and serving him in everything that you could do to serve a teacher. And when I met Paul in 79, Stephen handed the mantle to me to take care of Paul. But I don't think Paul would have gotten done in this life with what Stephen gave and allowed Paul to do. He always was in the background. You hardly notice him. If you ever watch Stephen, how he's always helping people, cleaning up. One of the wisest men I know, cleaning up, always doing the things. He would never offer knowledge or information. He just has it. Stephen, was a pastor of the fellowship with Haslam for several years here, I believe in the late 1980s. When he left Virginia Beach, he went to Texas and formed a company with Rob Pennington, Resource International, which served many Fortune 100 companies. And he took ILC, instead of making it a spiritual thing that we all know as inner light consciousness, he took that course and trained multi-million-dollar companies, employees, how to work together and have good relationships. Stephen has that kind of wisdom. So pay attention when he speaks. Stephen Haslam. Thank you.
I told him not to try to nominate me for sainthood, and I knew he wasn't going to listen. Too late, yeah. Too late, I'm thinking here, well, my time is up. And so,
What's good? Don't worry about the time.
I know. Because I haven't been here for a long time, I really tried to think hard about what would be relevant, meaningful to share. I even made notes, which I haven't done for a long time. So, if we're going on a little bit longer and you need to get up and go to the little boys' room, the little girls' room, please feel comfortable. It's not going to hurt my feelings. And then come back. It is, coming back here after 20 years seems really ironic to me. And let me give you a little context for that with the definition, the dictionary definition of what irony is. Irony is a state of affairs or an event that seems deliberately contrary to what you would expect. That's kind of like saying, life never quite works out the way you expected. You ever find that to be true?
Oh, yeah.
Or another way to say it is, things aren't exactly what they seem, which I think is a pretty good definition of a fellowship center. This place is not what anybody would expect it to be. But the funny thing is, it's a really good, safe home for those of us who are trying to negotiate our way through this world that is pretty contradictory and presents you with challenges that are just not quite clear.
Excuse me, they can't hear you. Can you pull that a little closer.
Really? Oh, okay.
In the back, yeah, it doesn't travel unless you hold it nice.
Got it. Thank you.
That better? Yeah.
Hold on. Let me get this around. And, because here, you can be welcome no matter how kooky you are or how traditional you seem. And basically here, traditional is kooky. It just, that stands out. And so that's kind of what I'd like to talk about is the problem of making choices in this world that seems so contradictory and it's not always clear what I need to do to find my path, and how the fellowship is such a good home for those who are trying to do that. Because, when I look back over my life, where I've been and where I've come to at this point, definition of irony, because I have not ended up where I expected, not at all. Some of you know when I first came to the Fellowship Center, October 1976, I just graduated with a business administration degree. And I rolled into town with my backpack and my yoga pants and my tai chi shoes and a bag of nuts and raisins and a whole bunch of spiritual books, like the Philokalia. These are writings of the Eastern Christian mystics. Tao Te Ching, that was really me. Autobiography of a yogi, stories from Nasruddin, the Sufi mystic, and of course, back in the 70s, you always read Be Here Now by Ram Dass. I spent more time reading those books. Of course, I didn't bring any business books with me. I spent more time reading those books so that my friends in school called me a Swami business major. I was a walking irony. It's not what you expect. And before I came here, what I was expecting, what I really wanted to do was live in one of the Yogananda spiritual communities. So my brother and I had hitchhiked from California all the way across the country, from New York to California. And I ended up having a 5-minute interview with the leader of the community. And after 5 minutes, he said, "No, this is not your path." And I thought, how can you figure that out from talking with me about nothing for 5 minutes? I spent months traveling across the country to do this. This is my path. My brother, who had expressed no interest in this place, he had his little 5-minute conversation, and the guy said, "Yeah, this is your path." And so Jerry stayed there for the next 12 years. I hitchhiked back across the country, and I ended up being brought down to the Fellowship Center by my parents because they had studied with Paul for a couple of years. So I ended up at this church run by an ex-Baptist minister where they sing churchy songs on Sunday morning, which is exactly what I was trying to get away from a family where 2 of my great aunts were nuns in the Catholic Church, and my great uncle was a Monsignor. That's not what I wanted. And my other great uncle ran the docks for the Irish mob, but that's a different story. Kind of a really strange background. So this is not what I was expecting. So it's really strange that I would feel comfortable here. But if you want the real irony of it, when I graduated from college, my dad, who was an IBM executive, he ran a lot of their leadership development programs. He said, "Stephen, what you need to do is get a real job and improve yourself through the corporation's leadership development programs." The funny thing was, he knew where I was going. He just didn't know what path I had to take to get there. On the other hand, my mom said, "You should take the unexpected path," which is what I ended up doing. She knew how I needed to get there, but she had no idea where it was going to take me. She didn't care. So here I'm getting advice about these 2 paths. Which one of them was right? See, this is the thing about irony. Whatever you think about either of those paths is not right. There's a whole lot more you have to learn before you can figure out what the whole truth is. But the one lesson that you should take from that is listen to your parents. They know a lot more than you think they do. But then go ahead and do your own thing anyway. Because in the end, you're the one that's going to have to make your choices. Now, in thinking about this, I kind of look back on this idea of irony. Have you ever noticed that some of your favorite spiritual one-liners actually contradict one another? Some of my favorites is, know where you're going so you don't end up somewhere else. Okay? Goal-oriented, persistent till you succeed. That makes sense, right? On the other hand, go with the flow. Very Taoist. Which means, don't know where you're going. Just kind of go along and see where it takes you. So wait a minute, which am I supposed to do here? Am I supposed to set my goals and persist until I succeed, or am I supposed to have no idea where I'm going and just go with the flow? That's a hard choice to make in every moment. Another one is to know and not to do is to not know. Deep. Zen koans are really deep. They make you think. But I love one of these little one-liners from Morpheus in the Matrix movies. Oh, yeah. There's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. Now, wait a minute. Is knowing and doing the same thing, or are they different? That's a little confusing to me. Which one am I supposed to follow? I just run into this in all kinds of spiritual teachings. I was always trying to find the right way. Okay, which is the right truth? Which is my path that I should be following? And I just stumbled over this over and over again. I thought that what I was trying to do is find the quickest road to enlightenment. You know, if I don't make those other mistakes, I'll get there faster. So I don't want to make the wrong choice. So obviously I lived most of my life with this terrible fear of making the wrong choice and making a mistake. From time to time, every one of us is going to come face to face with these, what I would refer to as spiritual ironies. You know, should I follow this path or should I follow that path? Let's see, should I do these teachings or study these teachings? Should I use this technique or that technique? Should I listen to my heart or should I listen to my gut? You know, which is the right thing for me? What I'd like to encourage you to do, if you're like me, you're probably going to try to figure out which one of those is right. I just want to encourage you instead, embrace the irony of it, which basically means you might not know. In fact, whatever you think you know, I don't know, you might not know the whole thing. And what you're really dealing with is the unknown. I think most of us, if you're like me, you try to fill that unknown with some kind of a sense of certainty so that you feel confident with whatever you're going to do. I don't want to step out, I don't know what I'm doing here. There's a man named Ray Dalio who is the CEO of the world's largest and most successful investment firm. I heard him on 60 Minutes say, people think that my success is due to what I know. Actually, it's more due to how I deal with not knowing. It's the unknown. And like I said, we try to fill that unknown with certainty. Let's see, what does God want me to do? God, I got it in a dream, or I got it in a reading, or I read my astrology chart. Yeah, that's the transit. That's the right thing for me right now. God tells you lots of other things that you don't do, so you really can't put this on God. It ends up being your choice. So instead of filling that unknown with some kind of a sense of certainty, at least what I'm trying to learn about here is you need to fill it with commitment in the face of the unknown. Anybody that's read Patrick Lencioni's books on leadership development, he really goes into that principle and how it applies in groups and teams. And my life is one of the best examples for how not to do this. Because I just kept over and over. I wanted to do the right thing. When I first came to the fellowship, I volunteered to do everything that nobody else wanted to do. I'm cleaning the bathrooms, and I'm cleaning, and I'm standing in the background, just doing all. I was really good at cleaning. And I think Paul saw this combination of enthusiasm and willingness to do anything, and what he thought was knowing something about business, which I didn't. And he thought, this guy would be a good guy to work as my personal assistant. So he invites me into his office, offers me the job, and I froze. I mean, I was willing to do anything, but here's this big thing. Oh, this is a big commitment. I've got to know this one is right for me. Maybe I need a reading, or think I need to look at my astrology. I don't want to do the wrong thing. And I'm sitting there asking him really dumb questions for about 5 minutes. And at one point, he gets really silent. Now, any of you who know Paul know how frightening that was. And he just got up and walked out of the room. I'm sitting there, did I get the job? I know. What am I supposed to do? I'm just sitting there and I want to do the wrong thing. And so the business manager at the time came in and said, no, Paul's retracting the offer because he can see that you're not ready. And in that moment, I saw this whole potential path just dissolve right in front of me. I felt sick to my stomach. I've lost this opportunity for life. Fortunately, over the next couple of days, Tara Singh, who was one of the teachers here at the time, hit me upside the head a couple of times, tried to give me the courage to ask for another chance, which I did. And I think at some level I don't know what's going to be involved in this path, but I got to take a risk and make a choice. This is basic risk management. 70% plan today is better than 100% plan tomorrow. But see, I didn't get that. I didn't get the principle. I made the choice, and things never quite worked out the way I was expecting. Because I was looking for the certainty, and I was in that way going down the wrong path. So about 6 years later, I was confronted by another one of these big life-changing decisions. And I'm thinking, oh man, should I go down this path? I don't know. And I remember walking in Heartfire Lodge Gardens with Paul. And he was saying to me, Stephen, it's not about whether you make the right choice. He's really tired of talking to me about this. But you ought to know by now that you can be successful at anything you choose to do, but you've got to choose. Matrix fans, you should recognize this one too, from the architect. As you so adequately put, the problem is choice. But it was a problem for me because I didn't know what the right choice was. But I hear Paul say, oh, you can be successful at whatever you choose. I thought he was saying, this is certain for you. So I chose. I happened to fail miserably at that particular choice. I just made a mess out of it. So, was that the wrong choice for me? No, it was the wrong question about whether it was the wrong choice or the right choice. I made the choice. I own the choice. I live with the consequences. It's karma in a nutshell. Actually, think about it, it's only half the karmic nutshell. Because if you really want the whole karmic nut, you got to learn the other side or other sides of that ironic truth, and you choose to do it differently next time. And for that particular thing, I think I did that pretty well. That's another story. We'll get into that. And so what I'm saying is I think the fellowship, not just the center here, but the whole network of people that have been involved, it's a really good spiritual home for those of us who are wrestling with and going through trying to find our way through those difficult choices, where we can feel comfortable finding ourselves. I hear people say that. But what I would say is actually, no, not always feel comfortable. In fact, Paul Solomon in particular, he had a unique ability to see a person's potential that they couldn't see. He had an annoying ability to notice that character deficiency that was really keeping them from reaching that potential, which was usually connected to their spiritual beliefs. This is the right way to do things, or this is what I've found. And he would set up situations to allow you to confront that deficiency so you could grow. What a nice guy. He would take Tara Singh out to breakfast and lunch at McDonald's, because Tara Singh, as a very strict Sikh Indian, believed the only way you can truly reach enlightenment completely is to be a strict vegetarian. You want to shake that belief out. He noticed that there were a lot of us New Age people here at the time who kind of looked down on the more, the Southern Baptist revivalist way of worshiping God. So he invited his father, Reverend Dove, to come and lead us all in a prayer meeting. There were a few of us who were there. So there's about 40 people in the room here. Now, this was not one of those silent, we're all with our eyes closed and someone's leading us with a soft voice in prayer. No, this is one end whooping and hollering and jumping up and down. There's 40 people all together, yelling and praising the Lord and crying and laughing at the same time. This is not my thing. But I'll tell you, I'm just standing right next to Reverend Dove. The hairs on my arm were standing out. Oh, you could feel this. I could see that it wasn't my thing, but boy, looking at him, you could see this was his thing. And he was so sincere in it. But the thing that got me was, here he is sharing this thing that's so close to his heart and just opening it up and sharing it. And he must have been able to see that there were, some characters in the room who just thought this was crazy. But he just shared it and enjoyed it, no judgment. See, I thought the most uncomfortable thing in that would be trying to whoop and holler with everybody when it didn't feel right. I walked out of that room realizing the most uncomfortable thing was, my judgments. God, I had to walk out of the room with that, still kind of wrestling with, oh my God, what a jerk I was. That's what learning at the fellowship was for me. Maybe it's why I stayed behind the scenes as much as I did. Paul did this with David Solomon one time, because I remember when David first got here, he used to talk about Jesus in that same kind of passionate, emotional way that Reverend Dove did. That was his path. So after a couple of years, Paul sent David up to New York City to learn Chinese philosophy and Tai Chi with Da Lu, a Tai Chi master. Now, those of you who knew me back then, by this time, I had been practicing and teaching Tai Chi for about 8 years. And so I'm thinking, wait a minute, why don't I get to go to New York? That's my path. I should be doing Tai Chi. This isn't fair. Things aren't working out the way I expected. It took me a long time to get the point that, oh, you don't need to go to New York because you're already on that path. You're already doing it. You don't need that side of whatever working out your ironies entails to get on the rest of your path. But boy, I resented that. So it's like the truth is not that any one of these paths is the right path. It's what you do with the path that makes it relevant for you. And I tell you, the best example of this challenging people to move them into their discomfort so that they can move beyond it was done right here at the Fellowship Center at a joint worship service. I heard about it, I was traveling at the time, by Tom Baker. A lot of you remember Tom? Oh, you here? Are you here? No? Okay, he's still around. Okay. Tom, just a good guy. Everybody liked Tom. He just like this, feels comfortable, wise, but not too wise so that we feel dumb. And really, that's his persona. But his background was he'd been a Catholic priest. Everybody kind of knew that, but they never liked to see him like that. So one day he shows up to do the worship service dressed in his priest's robes and collar. Oh, people haven't seen him like that before. So he starts talking and says, a lot of you probably haven't seen me this way before. And when people see me like this, they make certain judgments about, what I think and what I believe and how to deal with me. And as he's talking about it, he's taking off his collar, sets it aside. He goes on talking about how we all make judgments about other people. And that influences the way that we behave. And as he's doing that, he takes off his jacket, he takes off his shirt, he takes off his pants. He ends up in a t-shirt and a bathing suit or shorts. A Superman shirt, was it? Oh, cool. Puts on flip-flops, ready to go to the beach. He says, now, if I showed up like this, some of you may have made other judgments about me. But I now get to go to the beach, and I'm still the same person I was when I walked in here. You get to go out from here with your judgments. But you get to choose what those are going to be. And that has more to do with you than it does with me. Wow! What a brilliant way and gentle way of challenging us to face ourselves. That's hard. That's uncomfortable. So, it's wonderful to feel warm and fuzzy here, but you're not always comfortable. Gosh. The Fellowship Center has really attracted a lot of characters over there. Yeah, I am talking to some of the people in the room. And it's probably, because of the somewhat less than traditional methods and teachings, was presented here. Like, channel readings and astrology and Catholic priests undressing in front of the congregation, along with teaching about the Bible and other spiritual books. But in fact, Paul would really capitalize on this by doing talks about the mystery teachings, and not only the mysteries, the deeper mysteries. That's what we wanted, the deeper mysteries. But what I remember him saying is there's one common theme in all the different mystery teachings and at the core of all these different religions. Wouldn't you want to know what that one common core is? Character development. And I think that little nugget just like went right by most of them. Say, yeah, character development. Now, what's the mystery? Mysteries are sexy. Character development is not sexy. It's hard work. And this search for the mystery thing really distracts most of us from the whole hard work of character development. There's a book recently written by a guy named David Brooks called The Road to Character. And in it he says, some people build their lives on their resume values. Build skills, talents, abilities in order to succeed at whatever path they are going to take. Other people build their lives on their eulogy values. What are the values and the skills and the behaviors that will help me lead a meaningful life? So it's a book about how to build character. And really, simplify it, it's how can I be the best person I can be? So I'm hearing Paul say, yes, character development. And in this book, he has lots of different examples of people who have contributed meaningful things to society. And he says there's one common thing that every one of those people did. Every day, they focused on one core deficiency in their character, and they worked hard to overcome that core deficiency. President Dwight Eisenhower, he had a terrible temper. He had to work on that. There was a gentleman who was part of the civil rights movement. He was an egomaniac. He had to learn, this movement is about serving others, not just me getting attention. Gandhi was a fanatic. It took him years to learn patience and understanding and tolerance for people who were not as extreme in their ideals as he was. And Paul had an incredible ability to notice these character flaws and help you work on them. So, think about it for yourself. If you think about it, do you know what your core deficiencies are? I'll tell you some of them. Well, I'll tell you one of mine. You don't have time for the whole thing. Before I came here, I asked my wife, Mer, which one of my many core deficiencies should I share with the group? She jumped right on it. She said, you should talk about your fear of expressing yourself. Now, of course, right now, a lot of you are going to be saying, that doesn't sound like a problem for you. I've lived with a terrible fear of that all my life. And it may sound like an innocuous little thing. Just you're afraid of expressing yourself. Let's make you feel warm and comfortable so you can do that. No, they're called core deficiencies because they've got their roots and tendrils in all kinds of dysfunctional behaviors that cause all kinds of problems for you. But of course you don't notice it because it's unconscious. So, I grew up as your typical middle child. Always wanted to just stay out of trouble, have everybody happy with me, and don't have any disagreements or conflicts. Let's just all get along. You can even turn that into a really good spiritual approach. Let's all be one and get along. And so I developed a really good skill of empathy. I could listen to this one person and help that person feel. I could listen in between the lines and understand you so much that when I spoke, you said, wow, yeah, that's exactly, you understand me better than anyone. And by implication, agree. I didn't actually tell you I agree. I'm not about to tell you what I think about it. Then over here, I could be doing the same thing with this person that you're having a knockdown, drag-out disagreement with. And they would go, wow, Stephen, you understand exactly better than anybody else. And by implication, agree. I used this empathy skill to weasel my way out of all kinds of situations without ever really telling anybody what I was thinking or doing. I was able to really bullshit my way through lots of stuff that ended up getting me in trouble. So you think Paul was aware of this, of course. You think what he would do is help me feel warm and safe so that I feel comfortable, so that I don't have to fear expressing myself. No. He did it in a way that I just didn't expect. A couple of examples. He'd do a talk to a group of people, and he would say, and now Stephen and Murr are going to do a dance for you from Lord of the Dance. Because he knew that I had studied jazz and ballet and modern dance in school, and he knew that I hated to perform. And so he would wait until I was right there, and I couldn't be like in the back of the room where I could zip away and say, oh, look, there's something important I have to do. Too late, you're up. He'd be talking to like a couple hundred people at a time, and he'd have me stand right next to him on the stage. He said, I just want you to stand there, get used to being seen. Of course, he didn't tell the rest of the people why we were doing this. I'm just standing there. It's so embarrassing. He created this little routine where he was the ventriloquist and I was the judge. And so we'd work out this little comedy routine that we would memorize. And I would literally be carried in like this wooden dummy, and set on his lap, and he would set me up, and then we'd practice, he's pulling the strings, and we'd go through this little comedy routine. So here I am, in like one of my first opportunities to be in front of a group, and I'm the dummy. So embarrassing at first, but the way that he structured the comedy routine, I got all the punchlines. I was the dummy, the funny one. He was the straight man. And I started going, oh, this isn't so bad. I'm very comfortable getting up and being funny. So I got used to that, getting up and being serious. Ooh, oh, that's a lot harder. I wasn't ready for that. So years later, he had a whole group of us learn and enact this series of sermons from God's Trombones. It's a collection of really Southern Baptist revivalist kind of sermons in all different styles. And of course, I wanted the funny one. I could do such a good job with that funny one. He didn't give me the funny one. He gave me the crucifixion scene. And I knew, enough about acting that what I had to do was not just read the lines. I had to feel it. I had to dig down in there into the pathos and the ups and the elation and just feel all that. So there was like situation after situation over and over again, giving me opportunities, if I take them, to confront those fears. But again, the irony of this is today in the work that I do, where I'm coaching managers, executives, I've got to listen and understand in between the lines, because they're not clear enough about what they need to tell me. I need to hear in between the lines, what is the character deficiency that this is getting in this person's way of being successful? And then I've got to cut through the bullshit and tell them exactly what they need to deal with, but in a way that they're grateful to me for saying it, and they'll pay me. There's no way I could have been confident, and I've got to be comfortable to do that. And the fear of facing rejection and not getting paid. There's no way I could have done that without having to go through all those experiences. And all of that was hard work. That's been my path. And I know, Paul, I think some people were attracted here to the fellowship because, they do the mystery teachings, and we study Kabbalah, and we do the I Ching, or, whatever it is that this kind of off-the-wall approach that's just not so traditional that you may have found here works for you. And we're looking for the mystery in whatever that thing is. And we seem to think, I found it. This meditation will work for you. You've got to do this one. The truth is not in that particular meditation. It's not in that particular teaching. The truth is in you. And the only way you're going to get there, really, is the hard work of character development. That's the thing that's getting in the way of seeing whatever is available through that particular methodology. That's hard work. Have any of you ever seen The Life of Brian, the movie? Okay. You gotta see it. It's Life of Brian, Monty Python. Best thing I ever did. I'll give you a real quick summary of this. Brian was born in the manger right next door to Jesus. Just on the other side of the wall. And so, at the beginning, the wise men come in at his birth, and they give him the gifts, and then they leave. And then about a minute later, they come running back in, they grab the gifts, and give them over to Jesus. And so here's this guy who ends up living a life that in many ways is parallel to Jesus. But things never quite work out, for him. And at one point in the movie, he's trying to run away from some people who are chasing him. He finds himself up on a soapbox in the square, next to these other nutcases who are espousing their philosophies. And so people ask him, so what's your philosophy? And so you hear him saying all the things that Jesus taught, we should love one another and be helpful and kind, and like that. And one of the people says, you're the Messiah. And he goes, no, that's not the point. And he goes on trying to say, no, you're the Messiah. We should follow you. And he didn't want this, so he goes running away. And as he's running away, he drops his sandal. And they come up to where he dropped his sandal, and one person picks up the sandal and goes, it's a sign! And everybody takes off one sandal and goes running after him like that. Because of course, if that's what the master did, we'll all reach enlightenment by running with one sandal. It's not the sandal. That's not what's going to get you there. It's what you do with the sandal. And the only way we're going to get there is the hard work of character development. That's not sexy. I think to feel, we all need support to do that. I'm grateful that Mer's always there to remind me. On one hand, she keeps reminding me. On the other hand, she makes me want to be a better man every day. And I think we all need that kind of support from one another. And it's just, to me, it's ironic that I would have felt comfortable here in the first place. Given the path I thought I was going to be going on, that I would feel comfortable here. It wasn't any particular theology that drew me here. It was my parents. They dumped me because they thought I needed something. It wasn't charismatic leader. I didn't actually meet Paul until after a month that I was here. It was just the people that somehow, and I never could figure out exactly how, made me feel comfortable enough to be willing to start taking that risk, step out into the unknown, which is dealing with those character deficiencies. So, if I take two things out of that I try to do every day, out of my experience with the fellowship, not just this place here, but the whole network of fellowship people that I try to put into my life every day, I use my critical judgment every day to try to focus on as much of my character deficiencies as I'm aware of. And like I said, Mer's there to help me out with that. And I don't use my critical judgment to focus on other people's character deficiencies. You got enough to deal with. Not my path to do that. What I try to do is create enough safety and support that you can feel comfortable doing that for yourself, because it's hard work. I hope that all of you can get that kind of gift from your involvement with this group. And I think that if we all do it for one another, it'll work. Thank you.